Let's bring in Brad Panovich, who's been obviously following along with the rest of us, watching and waiting. And Brad, we were just kind of commenting as we were listening in. Not much to do other than you make some small adjustments here and kind of fly this capsule closer to the moon here.
Yeah, this is probably the quietest part of the mission because it's a 4-day trip out to the moon. There is a little burn they're going to do tonight. It's called the OTC burn. It's just a maneuvering thing to kind of slow them down and make sure they're in the right path. Okay. That should come up later tonight. But just to your point, I'm looking at the real telemetry. They're actually at now 108,000 miles away from Earth. What'll also be interesting is probably later tonight, maybe overnight, there's going to get to a point where they're going to be closer to the moon than they are the Earth. So they're not quite at that halfway point yet.
Oh, okay.
But that's going to be coming up. It is interesting, Colin. They have slowed down quite a bit, which means they probably are doing a little bit of maneuvering to get themselves in the right spot. I say slow down. They're down to 3,663 miles an hour. Remember yesterday they were like 10, 15,000 when that trans lunar ejection. They were up to like 15,000 miles per hour initially. So they've made some minor adjustments. But you are seeing like a lot more interaction with the crew now because they do have some, I wouldn't say downtime because they are working and doing a lot of stuff up there. Yeah. But this is the time that they get to test things, make sure everything in the capsule is working. We know about the toilet issues. I thought that was great to see Christina Cook kind of get the title of space plumber because she fixed it. And it was important. And they're also kind of doing some observing, too. You're seeing some great pictures coming back already because this is the farthest humans have been from the planet since December 1972. So it has been a long time. So this is a really cool time, I think, for multimedia. They did have a camera issue. James, do you remember they had some GoPro issues yesterday?
Yesterday they were troubleshooting an issue with GoPros.
Yeah.
It's funny, you mentioned the video with Christina Cook that we saw yesterday on social when they were testing the toilet here on Earth. She was using a GoPro.
Yes.
And then they were talking yesterday on comms about troubleshooting a 360-degree video with a GoPro.
Yeah.
And they kept referencing Nat Geo. So it appears to me that Nat Geo has some sort of relationship here with NASA where they're capturing even additional footage that probably will be flown back to Earth.
For later. Yeah, and so I've been getting a lot of questions. People are like, oh, it's 2026. Where's the 4K video feeds and stuff?
Well, actually, Brad, have you seen the 4K video of the launch that came out today?
I have not. But,
okay, I'm going to cue it up.
Yeah, I'm guessing, though, like to your point, James, that a lot of this is stuff they're working through, and maybe a lot of it we'll see after the fact. We're not getting live transmissions, but we're going to see this video afterwards. So, and they are troubleshooting, it seems like, communication issues with some of these cameras. So,
I'm sorry, Colin, if I'm stealing the show.
No, I'm not stealing the show.
But Brad reminded me that NASA did a video dump today. That's what I'm calling it, where they uplinked all new videos. So, Brad, your monitor is there to your left.
Yes.
This is video from Wednesday's launch. This is new video released today. You tell us what you're seeing.
GLS, go for your left. Great call out. The rocket really is on its own.
Obviously, it's much cleaner than that. Remember the feed, James, when we were in here? I had a lot of people complaining about that too, that the live feed dropped out. And
the live feed did drop out, right?
Yeah,
at launch.
NASA definitely had a little hiccup there. But there's all these other cameras rolling, right? And some of them, they're not streaming it. They're recording it, and they got to go get the medium. I know some of these cameras, they put really close to the launch pad, which you can't, some of them get destroyed. I've actually seen the videos of the plume overtaking them and they get destroyed. But this is cool. I mean, look at that.
Well, so I was going to ask you while we're watching this, Brad. So the velocity from the beginning of when this rocket lights up, right? That's I saw this question. People, I think it was yesterday. People are like, how do they get to that type of speed? Well, it starts from the ground, right? I mean, when they get to a 15,000 mile per hour speed, it starts from that point right there that we just saw, right? And they carry that momentum through the atmosphere, right, and then into space, right?
Yeah. So you got to imagine when they're near the surface of the Earth, that's the highest gravity, right, and the most resistance. You have the most atmosphere. So to get past that, that's the hardest part, Colin, to get off the ground.
Right.
Because as you get higher, you have less air, you have less friction, and you have less gravity. So your speed actually accelerates even more because all of those things are going away. And so when you get into orbit, you're really flying. And so when you see that first liftoff, that's the hardest part. That's why those solid rocket boosters on either side, those did 80% of the lifting, believe it or not. 80%. They're like Roman candles. Once you light those things, they go off, and there's no stopping those because it's solid rocket fuel that goes all the way through. In the middle, it's the liquid rocket fuel, which they use to get themselves eventually into orbit. So,
and here, Brad, is new video of these solid rocket boosters being jettisoned off of the Space Launch System post-launch.
Yeah, that looked really cool from the ground. I can't imagine seeing it from the air. Look how high up they are. You don't realize from the ground that this is happening almost in outer space.
When I remember talking to an astronaut when I went to space camp, they talk about the ride from the ground up to the upper atmosphere, right? Reaching Mach in like 45 seconds. But it's like, I think he said like it's controlled chaos. It's a ride of controlled chaos. Yeah. And he said you cannot really think about it in any other terms. You know, it's not a roller coaster. I've been in an F-16. Yeah. It's much more than that, right? The G-forces are upwards of 40, 50, 60, times what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, and they're doing exercises. They're trying to keep this is where their physical abilities come in. You think, fighter pilots deal with this as well.
Right.
They literally have to use their leg muscles and their abdomen to force blood up into their chest and their head, or they pass out. Right. So that's why they have those flight suits that actually will apply pressure to keep the blood flow from going. Because otherwise, if you're those kind of G's, Colin, the blood would get pushed all the way down into your legs.
Yeah, you pass out.
And you'd pass out, right?
Yeah.
So they actually it's almost like doing crunches while they're sitting there trying to hold all that up there. So it's physically demanding, on top of the fact that they are probably super excited as well. I don't think there's much you can prepare you for, because I think part of you is like, okay, you're going through this physical exertion, but you're also like super excited. Like,
well, he did say any fighter pilot who's ejected from an airplane has gotten close to that, or if you've been launched off the side of an aircraft carrier, you're close.
Yeah,
because those type of G's at that type of speed and that type of distance,
and it's quick. It's like it's from zero to those G's. Like that,
Well, I'll never forget the bladder that I had to wear for being in an F-16. It's not even compared to it's much more pronounced for your astronauts, but it seals up with air, and when you're hitting those upper G's, 7 and 8 and 9 G's, it actually fills higher, right? And you have to breathe. Yeah, it's crazy. So at one point, the guy was like, "Listen, stop! You're going to hyperventilate." So it is. They train, as I said yesterday, for 2, 3, even longer than that. But specifically, the Artemis crew for 2 years for this. So talk about a little bit more about what they're going to be doing today. It seems like there's some medical demonstrations they were doing as well.
Yeah,
and then they were practicing CPR and zero gravity. All things just to keep those senses, ready and active.
Yeah, they're also exercising. So they're using that flywheel thing. And people are like, well, it's a 10-day mission. What they exercise for? For what you just said, Colin, they're going to go back through G-forces when they come back.
Even worse.
So they've got to maintain their muscle tone and some strength, right? Because in zero G, right, you don't realize just us sitting here in gravity, you are using your muscles to just keep your body up. In outer space, you're not using anything. I was listening to it was an astronaut that was on CNN today, and he was talking about one of his favorite things about being in space was sleeping. And he made a good point. He's like, this will be the spa of the future, because when you go to space, there's no like sleeping wrong on your shoulder. Every muscle in your body gets relaxed because there's nothing pulling on it. He says it's the best sleep you'll ever get, because you don't pinch a nerve, you're not sleeping on your shoulder, your arm doesn't fall asleep, or your leg, because there's no gravity. It's like, it is such a peaceful sleep, but that also causes your muscles to kind of atrophy a little bit, because they're not working. And they've even noticed your heart and lung capacity will go down while you're in space, because it isn't having to work as hard because there's no gravity it's fighting against. So exercise for them, Colin, is a big part of keeping their physical abilities, because when they come back down, those G's, it's going to be the other way as they start splashing down. So that's going to be a big part of it. And also, they're going to go through some emergency testing stuff. You talked about some maneuvering. I know at certain times they're going to not completely shut off, but they're going to allow for them to manually maneuver a little bit, just to get a feel for in case the computer shuts down and they have to manually adjust. And they'll also test a lot of those life support systems. And the CPR thing, if they do have a medical emergency, they all are going to be first responders. So they have to practice some of that and go through that. All of this stuff is testing. We talked yesterday about, I've had a bazillion questions online. People are like, how come we're not landing on, Artemis II? Well, it's going to be Artemis IV. You got to remember, there were 17 Apollo missions, right? They did not even get to the moon till Apollo 8, and they didn't land for 2 missions after that.
That's right.
We're going to do this in a lot fewer missions, only 4, and we're going to land. So right now, this fly around is like the equivalent of Apollo 8, and we're doing it with Artemis II. So it is happening quicker and easier because of our technology, but we still need to test it. And so that's what they're doing. It's all new equipment. This stuff they're not using before. And I think Artemis III is going to be probably the coolest mission from testing, because they're going to have a lander. They're going to try docking. They've got to go into orbit. So there's so many things they have to set up. I don't think people really realize all the things they have to do to prepare for the following missions that will be coming down the road.
Right, just the first couple of steps. You were talking about that flywheel. They do 30 minutes to an hour every day on that flywheel just to keep it. And it takes, doctors say 3 to 4 days, your muscles can start to atrophy. So this is a 10-day trip. So within that time, they can look much smaller, and they will. They're going to lose. They're going to lose a lot of muscle already. You're going to see a much leaner 4 different astronauts. I mean, they were already lean. I think the pilot had the most muscle on him. But you're going to see them drop some weight. I mean, sometimes they come back 10 to even 20 pounds lighter.
Well, if you've ever seen that splashdown and you feel like they're helping them out and they look frail, they literally have trouble standing up because they're not used to it. And it's not that they're sick or it's just their bodies are having to adjust. The only way I can imagine it feels like, if you've ever gone skiing or roller skating for like hours and then you take them off and it feels like you're still on them.
Ski boots.
They probably get out and their body just feels weird because now there's gravity pulling on them. So it takes a while for them to adjust, and their lung and heart capacity will be affected. We've noticed that in almost every astronaut that comes back from space. So that flywheel thing's really interesting. They have to pack all that exercise equipment in a small package. It is kind of a cool thing when you think about it. It's all kind of stored in the floor, but
it's engineered, right?
Yeah, they can do like cardio. They can do like almost like weights. It's all with this one system. It's actually a pretty cool, for people that are into exercise and fitness, it's kind of cool that they pack that thing. It can do everything. It's like an all-in-one gym up there.
I kind of want one of those.
I just want to point out, gentlemen, that the pictures on the right side of the screen right now are live from inside the Orion capsule. What do you think they're talking about? I'm listening to them on comms right now talk with Houston. What do you think? What everyday occurrence do you think they are talking about? And no, it's not the toilet.
The weather?
No, it's not the weather.
They don't have to worry about that.
I would just...
It's got to be sports.
Well, that or maybe just like, how long they've been training, right? So you think about it, and then you probably talk about, well, what are the contingency plans for today? They probably have gone through all of that already. So I don't know. That's a great question.
They're talking about taking out the trash.
Yeah, maybe.
Really?
They're talking about ejecting the trash and collecting the trash. And ejecting the waste.
Yes.
That is what they are talking about right now.
Yeah, the ejecting the waste is actually a big deal, because I remember the shuttle missions, they had issues where the ejection froze because it clogged up the ejection tube, and they had to do a spacewalk to actually fix that.
And they've been talking about how cold it is inside Orion.
Yeah, well, you notice the sweatshirts and stuff they have on.
Yeah, it's freezing, obviously.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that thing is insulated. They do have climate systems, but they want to conserve as much power as possible, so they're not going to use that for heating.
Yeah,
so they're gonna dress appropriately. Yeah, it's thousands degrees below Celsius in some cases, or below Fahrenheit. It's super cold out there. Everything would freeze instantly, and so they're going to be cold. I mean, you would expect that in space, and their life support systems are going to help keep them warm. But I think they're going to use that. That's one thing. If I was up there, I would think about saving power all the time, because you just never know when you might need it for something else. So it'll be interesting. And they're getting farther away, where the solar panels probably are getting a little bit less sunlight to recharge everything.
Well, I think about those movies about Apollo, right? And having to save literally every ounce of energy or every little bit of fuel, right? Because they had to maneuver here or there. So all of those things come into play. Yeah, and that's, I would be anxious probably the entire trip. And that's why I don't go up. But
you think they check the fuel gauges all the time?
Probably, right? That's part
I
of
would.
the...
I'd be like, how much, we have plenty left? We got
probably part of the rounds.
Yeah, you want that light to come on.
Yeah.
You're in trouble.
Well, it was interesting hearing them talking about how they were going to sleep, right?
Yeah.
Upside down, but they really wouldn't know, because in space it doesn't feel like that. So there's the pilot there. So yeah, some cool images. Looking for, I think we're going to get an update from NASA around 3:30.
Yeah.
May or may not.
Any minute, they're having a little snack right now.
Maybe we'll take a 2-minute break